talk us through what is the fundamental pedagogy and mind-making mechanism in Indian knowledge systems for our audience, sir.
Namaskar to all of you. So education is the basis from which everything has to begin. And when we look at the Rishi tradition of Bharat, we can take any definition of education and then look at all the rishis who have spoken about how the education has to be. So it boils down to one simple sentence containing two words, Atmanam Viddhi. Know thyself. And the basic premise with which the Veda, Vedanta, and the realizations of the rishis begin, and this is what is the basis of education, that what lies outside me is nothing other than me. And if I need to know everything about the truth of everything that lies outside me, then I must know myself, the truth of everything that lies within. Because what lies outside me is nothing other than me. But then what is the way? There's no single way which is crafted by which we can say that one can know oneself, and by knowing oneself, that one can know everything else that lies outside oneself. So if you look at the pedagogical philosophy of Bharat, again centered on the Atmanam Viddhi model, there are various frameworks which have been given to us, various rishis, various educationists, educational philosophers. If Patanjali is speaking about Agama, Swadhyaya, Vyavahara, Pravachana and Vyavahara, Sri Harsha is speaking about Adhiti, Bodha, Acharana, Pracharana. I'll explain you these words. Like Patanjali says, Chaturbhishcha prakaraihi vidya samupayukta bhavati. That means there are 4 stages: Agama kalena, Swadhyaya kalena, Pravachana kalena, Vyavahara kalena. That means Agama kala is where the learning happens. Learning what? Learning for what? Then again, if you look at these 2 documents, every Indian interested in education, rather everyone getting educated must read the 2 documents, the reports of UNESCO. The title is Learning to Be, one, which is around 340 pages document, and a condensed version of that, Learning, the Treasure Within, around 46 pages document, which explains great minds, there are great minds, great educationists who have sat down together and prepared this report. So it begins with learning to know, learning to learn. That's the first fundamental principle which has been noted there. So it starts with Agama, learning to know. Then Swadhyaya, then is what we have gathered, all the information that we have gathered, all that we have learned, then it has to be contemplated within in relation to oneself, in relation to everything that lies outside oneself. Deeper contemplation of that. Then Pravachana, the more we contemplate within, the more we relate within, so we start having the Upalabdhi, the experience. And every Upalabdhi is, like the very nature of any Upalabdhi is to manifest itself. In some form it has to manifest. That's the pravachana, the power of expression, giving expression to one's own experience, what one has experienced within. Then the Vyavahara Kala, then the living the truth that one has realized in life, Vyavahara Kalena. So if you look at, like Sri Harsha says, Adhiti, that again, learning to know, Bodha, there has to be a deeper understanding of contemplation on what one has learnt. Acharana, one has to put it into practice. It has to be a lived truth. And then pracharana, then it has to be disseminated. The same way, then there are methods, there are ways, what are the aids that we should use to take it forward. Then you see, the Mahabharata speaks of 4 aids. It speaks of utsaha, that one has to be utsahi to learn. That willingness, that enthusiasm, that excitement has to be there to learn, to know more. Then it speaks of shastra, the repository of the experiences of who have realized the truth. Then it speaks of the guru. Then it speaks of the kala, the time. So everything manifests and matures in the course of time. Then again, you have various frameworks which have been provided to us by the Rishi tradition of Bharat, how education happened. And there is no one single way by which the education was happening. If Haridramata Gautama was approached by Satyakama, so he had a different methodology for Satyakama than what Uddalaka had for Shvetaketu, or what Satyakama himself had for Upakosala, or what pedagogy followed, Pravahana followed while preaching or while transferring the knowledge to Uddalaka. Okay. Or you look at Pippalada, how he educated his 6 pupils when they raised questions. So Upanishads have to be studied well in order to understand what exactly was the India's pedagogical philosophy. Lot of stories, lot of stuff that we can discover from the Upanishads. Coming back to the documents which I mentioned about the UNESCO, it speaks of these 4 fundamental principles: learning to know, learning to live together, and learning to be. Learning to be. Ultimately, one has to become that. Ours is a tradition of becoming. That ultimately one has to become, like when Bhrigu approaches his father Varuna in the Taittiriya Upanishad. So when he comes to him with the final realization, so he embraces him saying that you have become that. So learning to be. So if we can adopt those fundamental principles which are laid down by the Rishi tradition of Bharat, and then try to see where does it fit in today's education system. Because today's education system has many, many flaws, though it has many, many good things also. But the fundamental flaws which limits the real growth, because ultimately it is the human growth which is the purpose of the education. And then what are the faculties, what are the skills that one has to develop within oneself in order to facilitate that growth, that inner growth, so then one understands the truth of everything. This is where the quest for knowing the truth of everything, that was the basis of the Rishi tradition of Bharat, which took forward and then created this whole great civilization. So with these few words, I will end my first sharing, and then moving ahead, I will again further contemplate on it. Thank you.